Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to the Outer Rim, and thanks for coming. Last time I took this CH15 Kohler engine out of a Cub Cadet 2155 for the sake of putting into, there it is. I'm going to put it into that International Harvester Cub Cadet 149. So, since then, I bought a set of wheels at my local engine show, and I thought, boy, this is great. A nice set of wheels with good tires, because the tires that were on it were 50 years old and dry rotted. You know the story. So I thought, this is great. Okay, so I bought the two wheels with tires and a rat trap, a Have-A-Heart rat trap for 25 bucks. I thought, can't beat that. In my haste, I failed to realize that the wheels were 4-bolt instead of 5-bolt. So my 82-year-old father-in-law helped me peel the old tires off and the new tires and put them on here. So now I've got some nice tires and the whole thing rolls. Well, the other thing I forgot to mention was I went through all the linkage for this, the parking brake, and I made it so that it returns. Because it was just, you'd put it down and it'd be stuck. And when I had the wheels off, I took the brakes apart and took them to my day job and cleaned them all up and put them back together and put them back on here. They probably need adjusted, but I can reach it right there. It probably doesn't look like a whole lot of easy to get to, but it's pretty easy to get to. And after that, I went to visit Greg at Denmark Cubs, which is in Denmark, Ohio, or the village of Denmark, or Denmark Center, or something. It's a little Amish-type burg just outside of Pierpont in northeast Ohio. So here I'll show you some footage of Greg's salvage yard. Greg is an International Harvester Cub Cadet, garden tractors and super garden tractors salvage operation. He's got parts. You need parts, he's got parts. And he's a real pleasant fellow. So he had a real nice, couple of nice shops with some, all the small parts that he's already pulled, you know, organized and on shelves. And then back out in the back, he had entire machines. And he had a 149. And I asked, and he said it ran. And I asked him, you know, what would that cost? He said $200 about. And I thought, well, shit, that's probably, I'll probably have more into this to get it to go to do what I wanted to do than buying that one. Maybe not. So far, I've got 25 bucks plus parts. So we'll talk about that. So what did I buy? Well, let's have a little look-see. Let's look at the tractor. Well, I got shit all over the top of it. All right, well, I need a gas tank, so I got a gas tank. Real nice gas tank, I might add. With the brackets. Hopefully, I don't have a flashlight on me. I'm going to try to tip this so you can see in there. Well, it's spotless in there, was what I'm trying to tell you. So, I got a gas tank. Big parts, I got a plow frame back there under the rag. As I may or may not have mentioned, I'd like for this to be able to move snow. And I've seen some video of these guys moving snow. These guys. And they do it quite well. So I got a plow frame. And I mentioned that I have this plow here. I think I could put the blade on. Or I have a John Deere frame that I could fit on there. So I got the frame. I need that. I'm sure I could have made it, but I don't want to do that. I got some rubbers for the, the drive shaft. I got the transmission coupling, because my transmission coupling that's on the transmission right now is all wallowed out. I have an engine to drive shaft coupling, which that will lead to more. I got the depth guide. What's it for the side there to set the depth of your deck or your plow or your implement. I think maybe that's it. I picked those up I know the back, everybody wants the square originals. I don't care. I want this to work. I don't need it to be original. So I picked those up at the Steam Engine show also. I think they were $5. Everything else I think in here is stuff that I already had. And one last piece. I picked up this engine to transmission. You know, that would go on the original K motor. It would go here. So it is my hopes to see if I take these two bolts out and take this coupler off, if this will bolt right in. If I can take the nut loose or bolt or whatever's in there and bolt that right in there and remove that little broken bolt. Because otherwise I'd have to machine this out to locate this. Because that sits right in there like a so. Or I could take the drive shaft that was originally with this engine, which is right here, which is different, cut this off and slot a hole in it. So that's a possibility. So I thought that the next logical step would be to take this engine and take the covers off and get all the rat's nests out of it. I found the foam from the filter in here. I've broken a small fastener, so hopefully I can heat that up with a torch, propane torch, and start to drill it, and hopefully it'll drive it right out the back side. I figured out why when I had it running in the other machine and the key wouldn't turn it off. The kill wire has come off, so I'm going to need a coil. And I'm going to be real careful with these because I don't want those to break like that has. So, a couple of things that I'd like to do before I get to replacing or getting this engine in there. I would like to grease and adjust the steering box. I believe the two nuts on the steering box, one is a jam nut and one is to put tension in it to tighten it up. I believe I haven't had a vehicle with a steering box like that in a long time, so I would like to take the front axle out, like the pin out of the middle, and grease everything and clean it and inspect it. As I noticed, when you turn the steering, that front axle will move left to right a little bit. I don't know if it's supposed to do that, so I just want to see if there's a bushing in there that's all worn out that I could easily replace. I'm not trying to get into people machining stuff for me because I don't have a lathe available. I think that would be nice to do before I put the engine in. Certainly make life easier. I may like to take all the wiring that's in there and strip it right out, just because there's a solenoid up inside of here that I don't think I'll need, since the solenoid is right on the starter with the replacement engine. Of course, change all the fluids in the axle, but I want to make sure that it works. I was told that it's a good transmission. You know how that goes. Usually I have real good luck and people treat me really well. And the young fellow that sold this to me was a nice fella and seemed to be on the level. So I guess that's right about where I'm at. I suppose the next step is to, like I said, clean this engine up. I did notice that I am missing the voltage regulator, and I'm not sure why. I wonder if it had gone bad, or the guy that had it before me that gave it to me, maybe he had taken it off for something else. He's in the welder repair business, so he might have needed that for an engine that was running a welder or something. I don't know, but there it is, and I can get a hold of that, not too hard. This is the oil drain I was talking about the last episode, and it looks like that's something that I could put one of those little rubber hoses on, the little oil drain hose, and tuck it down under the frame and drain underneath instead of drilling a hole in the side, but I'll still have to notch it out for this. And Greg over at Denmark Cubs had told me that it is common for people to make two cuts right here, I believe he told me, right in this area. and bend this whole panel out, and I would assume they would take the piece that they cut and just bend it this way to match and then weld it back up. I think that could look kind of half-assed, so I think I'd like to make 2 cuts here and here, bend the whole thing out, maybe even bend it back up straight. And somewhere he had given me a piece of frame from another machine that I could cut a piece and weld it in. So that would be nice, instead of lowering this, bending it out to make way for the starter right here. I imagine I'll go see Greg again. I'll need a muffler. Who knows what else. And then I'll try to remember, oh, you know what? I'm going to ask you, Internet, because this thing, I get that this is like the modern tractors, whoops, where you've got the release to make the hydrostatic transmission in neutral, so you can, so you can move it. There we go. Oh my gosh. Well, told you I'm new to this. That's what makes a good mechanic, though, is the ability to figure it out. Oh my goodness. Okay, here we go. This doesn't seem to do anything. I'm not entirely sure, and I don't have another to... I see a pin, and I see this piece of steel. Did this used to be a spring? Is that broken? A larger portion of it broken off? I don't see where it does anything in here. You know, it doesn't push on something. So, I don't know. So one of the things that I wanted to mention was, what do you think I paid for all that stuff? All the parts. I've looked on the interwebs and found the gas tank for one of these machines is like $100, $120, $130, which I thought was outlandish. So I've got the plow frame, the gas tank, the deck stop or depth stop, and all those little small parts. What do you figure? $50. I spent $50, which I thought was way more than reasonable. Okay, that's the part I forgot. All right, well, hey, thanks a bunch for coming by. Hopefully next time something more will happen. I've had some trouble with the deck on my John Deere lawnmower, so I may have to spend some time doing that. But it's drier than all get out here in northwest Pennsylvania, so might not have to mow. Plus, we've got the zero turn, so, you know, it just takes longer when it's only one person. All right, thanks so much. Here's some birds. Pardon. Hi, Orange. Getting on to be about dinner, isn't it? Sorry to roust you out of there.